Alrighty, so it is 2:01, so we'll go ahead and dive right in. Again, welcome everyone and thank you for joining me today. In today's session, we're really going to be focused on getting you guys up and running with the new and improved website of Britannica Library and making sure you have access to the high quality content to support users with research projects and presentations and just gaining access to content from a wide array of topics. Before we dive into our session, I first wanted to take a moment to introduce that voice behind your screen. My name is Courtney France, and I am the Education Consultant with the Eastern Region with Britannica, and I'm really excited to be here with you all today. This session is a little special for me. I am a former Gamecock, graduating back in 2015 before I started my career in elementary education, teaching in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I'm very familiar with Discus. I used it during my student teaching, so shout out to my Gamecocks out there, and I will also shout out Clemson Tigers as well, just because you all are joining the session. So we're going to have that friendly rivalry today if you guys are Clemson Tiger fans. But that being said, a couple things to point out on this screen. The first thing you'll notice is my email address. If you all ever have any questions about any of your Britannica resources that you have access through the Discus website, please do not hesitate to reach out directly to me. I'm happy to send you any additional resources, help with troubleshooting or anything like that. One other contact you'll see on the screen is our technical support team, which we call our Ed support team. They are there to help with any questions you have about access ID and passcodes. If for whatever reason any links that you're clicking on aren't appearing to be working, they are your go-to. So if you'd like to record both of our email addresses down so you have our contact information and can reach out with any questions. One other thing to review before we begin is that just some housekeeping items. The first thing you probably noticed when you logged in was that your microphone was automatically muted. We do this just to ensure that you have the best user experience. There's no background noise or feedback that's causing or preventing anyone from hearing what's being shared in the session. But that being said, if you do have any questions or you need to reach out to me at any time, please go ahead and utilize the chat log for any questions. I'll be happy to check that throughout the session and answer any questions that come my way. Anything that I don't immediately answer, just know I will be taking time at the end to wrap up any final questions. Last thing to share before we dive into all of the content of our session is where we're headed today. We're really going to start by looking at what type of Britannica or what content is in Britannica Library and doing a high-level overview about what the Britannica Library resource is. We're going to review how you can access the Britannica Library resource, and then from there we're going to dive into our tour of Britannica Library, diving into each level at the children's level, young adult level, and reference center level. And then again, we'll take some time at the end to wrap up with any questions you have or any additional resources you guys want to dive even further into. But let's go ahead and start off and dive into our content by taking a look at what Britannica Library has to offer. When we're looking at Britannica Library, the first thing you want to point out is that we have tons of articles that are spanned across 3 different content levels, really allowing access for users to a wide array of content, not only limited to those articles, but also images and videos, dictionary definitions, primary sources, and everything in between. So as they're diving into the content, they're doing their research, they're not limited to one perspective or one overview of the content. They can see the content through the lens of multimedia, as well as get firsthand accounts of content through historical events as well. You'll also notice within our Britannica Library platform, you can easily share out the images and videos and download them as well. And then one of the most important things we like to highlight with all of our content is we really like to ensure that it is safe, reliable, and up to date. And this is something that we pride ourselves on. We've really been working hard to address gaps in content throughout our product, making sure that not only the articles, but images and videos really address all the perspectives of a historical cultural event or scientific phenomena or whatever students may be encountering within Britannica Library. So we're constantly working to revise, add, and replace outdated articles, but also make sure that the articles are updated in real time to give us access to relevant information. Throughout my current webinars that I've been doing, all since this presidential election has started, including even the NBA championship and the current baseball World Series, I've encouraged my attendees to really look at our new and revised articles to see how immediately those events are up to date. So when the Lakers won the NBA championship, the next day you saw LeBron James and the Lakers article added to that list to show that new content was immediately added based off of that current event. So I definitely encourage you to explore that even further. We will be taking a look at some of that content on our tour today. But speaking of some of the editorial content and the process of which we go through, this infographic that you see on the screen really speaks to the process that all of our content touches, or all of the hands our content touches, to ensure that we're constantly revising and adding new content based off the current world around us, whether that might be historical content, scientific content, new mathematical findings, anything in between, to ensure that students and users have access to reliable information. But all of that being said, now that we've gotten a quick overview of what we're going to be seeing today, let's talk a little bit about how you're going to be accessing the resource. I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this link that we see on the screen into the chat log, but this is your direct link to access Discus and see all of the resources outside of Britannica, or including Britannica School, but also outside of that for you to explore and engage with. So feel free to explore that link or copy and paste it and save it in your browser so you have access to it later. But as you can see, when I navigate to this link, let me go back into present mode real quick. There we go. When I navigate to this link, scdiscus.org/discus-resources, I have access to all of the Discus resources that are provided to me. I can explore them alphabetically, but as you can see here, all of our Britannica content as we scroll down is appearing, including Britannica School, Britannica Library, Britannica Fundamentals, and other resources as well. So I highly encourage you all to take time to explore all of the content, not only Britannica Library as we explore today. The last other thing to note with accessing Britannica Library through your Discus website is that if you are a first-time user, you may be prompted to enter some sort of access ID and passcode, and that is unique to each individual district or school that subscribes to Discus services. So I encourage you to see your librarian, or if you're unsure of your access ID and passcode and you want to reach out to me directly after the session today, I can pull your specific school's information and email that directly to you. And also, if you have any further questions with your Discus team, you can find their contact information on the screen below. So now that we've covered an overview about what we're going to be seeing today, we've looked at how we can access not only Britannica Library, but all of our Britannica resources. Let's go ahead and dive into our tour of Britannica Library. And I'm going to access this resource by going directly to library.eb.com. And again, just remember, the first time you access this, either by going to library.eb.com, as I just did, or if you go through Discus, you may be prompted with that access ID and passcode. And again, don't hesitate to reach out to your school librarian or to me directly, or your administrator at your library to find that information out as well. But let's go ahead and dive in and start diving into some of the new updates that are provided within this new Britannica Library interface. Many of our changes that you'll see today were made to work better on mobile and other handheld screens. You'll notice in our previous resources that we had with Britannica Library and Britannica School, they were great on desktop interfaces, but they didn't always scroll or integrate well within the mobile interface. So we really wanted to ensure that on both platforms, desktops, tablets, and any other mobile devices, that it's a streamlined process where students and users are easily able to scroll to conduct their research. But let's go ahead and first take a look into one of our first levels. You'll see here when I navigate to the homepage of Britannica Library, I have 3 options I can explore: the children's level, the young adult level, and our reference center. I can either click each of these headings or each one of these levels and dive into each individual level homepage, or I can conduct a search directly from this homepage by selecting one of the magnifying glasses next to that section or level I would like to search. So let's go ahead and start at our young adult level. And I'm going to go ahead and conduct a search on South Carolina. And as you see, as I'm starting to conduct my search, very similarly to what we saw in the old interface, it will still provide you recommended articles that you can click into and launch directly into that encyclopedia article. Or if you want to expand your search outside of encyclopedia articles and see all of the content that's provided in your search query that you're entering, you'll simply press enter on your keypad or select the magnifying glass. And when you do so, all of your search results will appear. Just know in our new interface, all of your search results will remain the same. You are not losing any content. You will be gaining content, obviously, as current events are updated and new findings continue to happen as time goes on. But besides that, all of those functions and features that you saw before in the previous platform, you are not losing within this new update. But let's go ahead and see some of the content and where it's now located. Instead of having our content tabs, which were typically on the left-hand side of the screen listed vertically, you'll now notice that they're listed at the top of the screen directly below our reading level filtering. With our reading level filtering, our reading level 1 always correlates to our children's level content. Reading level 2 will always correlate to our young adult content, and level 3 will always correlate to that reference center content. And then below that, you can go ahead and explore all of the different content pieces that are embedded within Britannica Library. We have our articles tab, which we'll come back and explore in 1 second. Then we also have our images. You'll see here, once we open up our image search, it's very similar to our image results that we saw earlier, where we have a thumbnail image as well as a brief caption or title for the image. We can increase and decrease the size of the thumbnails in our search results, as well as change the view of our thumbnail images between grid view, which is what we're currently in, where you see a lot more white space in between our image results, and strip view, which removes that text and allows us to see more results on one page at a time. But just like our old platform, if we wanted to explore an image, we'll just go ahead and click on it. So let's go ahead and click on the state flag. And we now have that slideshow pane that we saw very similarly in the old platform. You can still scroll through all of your image results using the arrows on the left and right-hand side of the screen. You do have access to the caption of the image below, as well as the title of the image, if that's something you need to include within your research project or presentation. And then over here on the right-hand side of the screen is where you'll find all of those same utilization and sharing features. So the ability to save and favorite content to your personal My Britannica account, you can do that by clicking on the star icon. You can also still print out all of your content, which will also print out the title and the caption of the image on the page whenever you select this feature. If you would like to email this content out to another Britannica user, you'll just select the email icon and scroll down where you'll enter their email address as well as your contact information and simply click send. One thing I like to share whenever you're using this feature, even though you're entering your contact information as well, this email will be sent by a Britannica account. So if for whatever reason the person you sent it to says they never received it, just have them check their spam and save that email address to their contacts. They don't have any further issues in the future receiving any content you send their way. Below that, we have access to our citation tool. Once you select that feature, you can use the drop-down box to select whatever citation style you would like to use, or whatever your library users are utilizing to support with their research. They're not having to jump into a third-party site and have to use some sort of citation generator or go out and pull the APA manual and have to try and remember the format word for word, really trying to alleviate that extra step in providing that information in one simple click. Below that, you still have the ability to get a direct link to all of our image and video content. When you select this chain link icon, your new web link appears directly below the image. So this is something you want to copy and paste, maybe in a social media page to advertise a historical event or a time in history. Maybe it's Women's History Month and there's an important woman in history from the state of South Carolina. You want to share it to the Facebook page, Twitter page. You can easily copy and paste that link and share it in that manner. One other way to save image content to share out is by simply right-clicking on that image, and then you'll select the in the menu that appears, Save Image As. If you're on a tablet device, you'll just press and hold the image with your finger until the menu appears, prompting you to save that image to your device as well. Last two things to point out is that within your library, if you happen to be Google Classroom users or Microsoft Teams users, you do have that function provided to you. Once you select either of these icons, it will open you into a new window where you will follow either the Google Classroom prompts or the Microsoft Teams prompts to share it to a specific class that you've created or a specific Microsoft Teams that you've created or that you participate in as well. So just know that you have that sharing feature available to you. But now that we've seen how our image content has updated, let's go ahead and see how our video content window has changed. You'll notice it is very similar to our old Britannica Library interface. Whenever we open up a video that we're interested in exploring, we still have those same sharing and utilization features provided on the right-hand side of the screen. We can also begin watching the video and get a direct transcript to all of the content or all of the narration that's provided in the video as well. Let's go ahead and take a quick glimpse of this video content, and then we'll start exploring some of the other content within Britannica Library and seeing some of the updates as well.
As Europeans looked westward toward this new continent, there was naturally an excitement, a curiosity, perhaps to some extent an anxiety about what the continent contained. There was no right.
All right, so just a quick glimpse into some of the video content that's provided. As you can see, automatically when we start this video, we've automatically turned on our closed captions to support with everyone being able to understand the content that's being shared. If they need that reading fluency support, they can also turn on that function to support with reading fluency and comprehension if they might be younger learners who are trying to work on that skill as well, while also getting that visual reinforcement of the content that they're researching. Over here on the bottom left-hand side of our video content, you'll see your everyday video features that you might see in a Netflix or Hulu video, where you can play and pause the video, rewind by 10 seconds, fast forward, and then also increase and decrease the volume. And then over here on the right-hand side, two buttons I'd like to highlight is the ability to download all of our video content in an MP4 format. So again, maybe you want to share this video for a historical moment based off state history. You can go ahead and upload this maybe to your library's Facebook page, Twitter page, or whatever website that you're utilizing. Share this information and engage your users in that way. And then also you have the ability to turn on and off those closed captions that I mentioned earlier. If that's something you want to turn off and just really focus on the visual features of the video, you can do that by using that icon. But let's go ahead and exit out of our video content and now move on to some of the other content that's provided within before we check out some of the updates and revisions that have been made to our articles. To explore anything outside of our article, image, and video content, instead of seeing all of those icons listed individually on the left-hand side of the screen like we saw in the old platform, instead you'll have to click on this More icon, which expands where you're able to see all of the other content types that are provided within Britannica Library. So even though it's not listed, all of those resources are still there, where you can have access to the dictionary definition of the words or searches that you're entering. Also, any magazine or journal articles powered by our sister company, EBSCO. One thing I like to point out with any magazine and journal articles, as well as primary source documents, when we take a glimpse at those, is that with all of those resources, you're going to see two different types of titles. The first type of title you may see is one that has the title of the article or primary source document, followed by the words PDF version, and then others you will see just simply the title of that article as we see here highlighted on the screen. The key difference between these two types of titles is that if you see PDF version following the title, when you click on the text PDF version, it will open you into the direct PDF copy of that journal article or primary source, and you can see it exactly as it was formatted to be printed for public use. If you open up one of the other links that does not have PDF version included, you still have access to all the content of that article or primary source, but instead that text is brought into the Britannica Library platform where you're able to still get the content, you just don't have the PDF copy of that article. So I like to point that out just so we know the similarities and differences between the two, and just know that you do have access to the PDF copies of a lot of the articles within Britannica Library. But let's go ahead and wrap up the More section of our resources. Our magazine articles, just did that, excuse me, I meant our Web's Best Sites is another resource that allows users to expand their research outside of what we provide in Britannica School. These websites that we provide are all revised, or not revised, but skimmed over by our editorial team to ensure that the content is accurate, but also to ensure that that website provides unbiased information and doesn't prompt users to go too far out within their search. And what I mean by that is a lot of websites, sometimes when you just conduct a Google search, you might have ad pop-ups and all those other things that will prompt users to expand their search sometimes into less reliable sites. So we really make sure that all of the content on these websites are reliable and that any links outward are also reliable sites as well. Last couple resources within this More feature includes the primary source documents, and this allows users to get a first-hand account of any historical event that they're looking at. And as they explore this content, you'll again notice that some of these titles have the PDF version title after it, where you can get a PDF copy of that direct primary source, as well as others that will be simply brought into that Britannica Library interface. But now that we've gone ahead and explored all of the content within Britannica Library, before we dive specifically into one of the articles, I did want to pause to see if there were any questions based off any of the new changes or features we've seen so far. All right, I'm going to continue on. If you are typing a question, please don't hesitate to continue typing and press submit. I'll make sure I answer it as it comes in. But now that we've seen all of the content within Britannica Library, let's go ahead and dive into one of our encyclopedia articles. And one thing to point out is that right now we are still searching at the young adult level, but just know the content types that we just explored are the same at the children's level as well as at the reference center level. The only thing missing at the children's level is that your students or users will not have direct access to the primary sources link. If that's something they're interested in using, have them navigate to the young adults section and they'll be able to explore those primary sources. But let's go ahead and go into the article. The first thing you're going to notice within this new interface for both the young adult and reference center article levels is that we have a new hero image space at the top of the screen. These were added to be more visually appealing for our articles based off the research that we did within the market for user interface and experience really showed that people were drawn to visuals more than plain text. So the idea was to pull users into the topic quickly by getting them curious based off what this image was and then be able to dive into the content of the article. But as we scroll down within the article content, you'll notice very similarly to Britannica Library in that interface before, again, all of your resources are the same when it comes to your functions and features to be able to utilize and share it. At the top of the article, or I should say directly under that hero image, you will have access to the tab to view all images and videos that are correlated with this article, as well as any related articles that are provided within Britannica Library for students and users to explore or expand their research out and really get a holistic view of the research that they're doing. Within the related tab, you'll see that we have immediate access to all of the related encyclopedia articles. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, we can also explore related primary sources and web's best sites. But let's go back into the article. Some other things to point out within the article is that we still have access to our reading level where we can move up to get a more rigorous article with our reference center level article, or move down and get our children's level article depending on if this text is too challenging for the users that are engaging with it. And then one other thing to point out within our article content is we have now moved all of our using and sharing features directly below our image in the upper right-hand corner. When you select this curved arrow, you can share the article via email to Google Classroom. You can save it to your Google Drive as well as share out to Microsoft Teams. One thing to point out with saving to Google Drive is that when you utilize that feature, when you're logged into your Google Drive account, once you select that icon, it will automatically save this article to your account. When you open up your Google Drive, you will notice that there is a brand new folder titled Britannica. You'll click on that Britannica folder, and inside you will see the South Carolina article or whatever article you're planning on saving to your Google Drive to really ensure that you're able to collect all of the resources you're using for your research in one place. Next to that, you do have the ability to favorite and save all of our content by using the star icon, and we'll come back to how to favorite and also organize the content when we talk a little bit about My Britannica accounts. But next to that, you can print all of our articles off in PDF format. Just like our video and image content, you can get a direct citation to our article. And then this globe icon allows us to translate our article into over 80 languages. So using this drop-down menu, users can select whatever language they speak at home or whatever language they're learning, have that article translated, and then be able to gain that content in that specific language and comprehend it in that way. So let's go ahead and select Spanish for now. When I select that language that I want to choose, you'll notice that not only is the article translated into Spanish, but all of the content within this Britannica Library page has now been changed or translated into that Spanish language as well. If I need to switch back into the original English translation of the article, I can navigate to the top of my page by selecting Show Original or by selecting this X in the upper right-hand corner. All right, and now let's scroll down. Last couple features to share is that we still have access to our Read Aloud feature. When students and users select this Read Aloud icon,
Introduction, the U.S. State of South Carolina.
You can see that the article is read aloud to them and the text is highlighted so they can follow along. And the last two features include the ability to increase and decrease the font, just like we saw in the old interface where you can go ahead and make the font bigger to ensure that everyone in the room that you may be presenting to can see it, as well as if you need that additional visual support so you can see the text on the screen, you can do so there. Let's go ahead and move on down into our lower level, which is our children's level, really quickly, just to see some of the differences within the article content at the children's level, as well as our reference center level. And now that I say that, let me first go to reference center level. So I lied to you all, I apologize. We're gonna start by going to reference center and then we'll go back to children's. But I'm gonna conduct that same search on South Carolina, just as I did earlier. And instead of selecting the magnifying icon to see all of the content types, I'm going to launch directly into the article by selecting the title under recommended articles here. Once I do so, you'll see that this article is updated to meet the more rigorous content that is needed for higher level learners within this reference center level. But you do notice that you have a lot of the same resources that are provided. You can still adjust the reading level, as well as navigate to the image and video content, as well as see related articles and images. Now you'll also see in this upper right-hand corner, nothing has changed from our young adult level, where you still can share out, favorite, print, cite, translate, read aloud, and increase and decrease the font. Now let's go ahead and move down to the children's level just to see some of the updates in that content or in that article. Again, I'm going to go to the article from the home page, select this magnifying glass next to that specific level that I want to search in, and then I'm going to conduct my search on South Carolina again, and then navigate directly into the article by selecting the title under recommended articles. Once I do so, you'll notice here that the children's level article is adapted to meet the eyes and engagement levels of our younger level learners. So instead of having that hero image at the top where they might get distracted and too locked in where they might not scroll down, you can kind of see we allow that large image and visualization still, but we put it side by side with the content as well. Instead of having that image and video tab or a specific button to click on for the image and video content, students can see a thumbnail image of all of that image and video content embedded within this article on the left-hand side of the screen, as well as get a quick glimpse into a fun fact about the state of South Carolina. And then again, instead of having the tab at the top, as we just saw for the related tab and related content, our younger users can find that at the very bottom by selecting the related button and again seeing related articles and web's best sites. They can navigate back into that South Carolina article by going to the top button that's titled Back to the Article. And once they do so, a couple of the other updates you'll see here is that we really focused on making sure that we modernize this page. You'll notice again that a lot of the features are the same, where at the elementary level, this article is chunked, so students and users get bite-sized pieces at a time to ensure that they're able to fully comprehend all of the content within this specific article. They can open up other parts of the article by selecting these drop-down features, and you'll notice as they move on, instead of having that one stable image like we saw in the old interface, the images update based off the section that they're exploring. So now that we're in the geography section, we're now getting a specific image that directly correlates to that section of the article that we're in to really ensure that students are getting that visual engagement as they're conducting their research and learning more. We still have access to the read aloud feature at this level as well. So if students want to do so, they'll simply select that play button at the top of each section or each header of the article.
South Carolina is located in the southeast,
where again, we can see that once they select that, the text is highlighted and the article is read aloud. All of the sharing features that we've seen so far within all of our articles, as well as image and video content at our children's level, has now moved over here on the right-hand side of the screen, but all of those features are the same, as well as they still have the option to share out to Google Classroom, Google Drive, and Microsoft Teams. So now that we've explored all of our article content at all three levels, before we dive into touring each level's homepage, I wanted to pause to see if there were any questions over any of the content and updates we've seen so far. Alrighty, if you're typing a question, I'm going to continue on, but continue typing it in the chat log. Press submit. I'll make sure I answer it as it comes in. But now we're going to go ahead and navigate to each of the homepage levels. I'm first going to go back to the main Britannica Library homepage by clicking the icon Britannica Library in the upper right-hand corner. Just know that anytime I'm in a specific level and I want to go back into that specific levels homepage, I can click the specific levels title on the screen. So here, if I click children, that's going to take me directly to the children level homepage. Whereas if I click the text Britannica Library, that's going to take me back to my overview Britannica Library homepage, where I can select and jump into each individual level from here as well. But let's go back into the children's level. The first thing to point out when you jump into this homepage is our rotating carousel of questions and information. This is a great game or attention getter for students, but really also a great way for them to discover information based off current events and also engage with research in a fun way. As they're engaging with these questions, as they click next, they can see the question at the top of the screen and then click the specific answer. If they get the answer incorrect, for example, it will let them know the answer is incorrect, but also prompt them to launch into an article to learn more about why they were wrong and what this image was depicting. As we scroll down, you will see that we have our Explore Britannica section, where we have access to engage with our article, image and video content, and biographical content. These are great places to go for students that don't have a specific research topic assigned to them, but they have an overarching research topic, maybe based off something that they're interested in. They can explore our content based off of different topics in folders that we create for them. So for example, if they explore the article browse feature, you'll see here they're launched into folders that have a quick image that will give them visual stimulation of what type of content might be within this folder, as well as a title for that section of content. From there, they can explore the folder that strikes their interest. As we can see here with animals, I have that selected. I still have options to explore the other topics provided to me, but then I also have the ability to refine my search results even further to explore other animal content and really dive into an article that really meets my interest and my needs for my research topic. I'm going to go ahead and go back into our home page. And when we go into our media browse, you'll notice that that is the exact same as our article browse, but instead of having article content, when students select on these icons, they will have access into our image and video content, and also still have the ability to refine their search results even further and find a specific video that meets their research needs. Going back into the home page, our last Oops, I went too far back. There we go. Going back into our homepage, the last Explore tool that we have available to users is the biographical search. Here at the children's level, you'll notice that all biographical content can be searched through using that person's last name that they're intending on searching. We'll see at the young adult and reference center level that there are other ways to engage with this content. So I'll make sure I highlight that when we explore both of those levels as well. But going back to our children's level, as we scroll down even further, you can see that we have access to our animal kingdom. Instead of what we saw on our former Britannica Library interface, where animal kingdom was all in one icon, students select that and then they have access to all these folders of classifications of animals. You'll see that we have a dedicated space directly on the homepage for students to dive immediately into the animal classifications and organize and define their research based off the classification immediately from here. Last thing, as we scroll down, you'll see that we also have our dedicated geography section for all of our Britannica Explore tools related to geographical content. We have our World Atlas, which is a great tool where we can explore the world around us, type in search results where the map will be able to zoom in, where we also will get access to links into other Britannica images and article content, and also be able to get street view tours by being able to drag and drop this figure anywhere on specific locations within the map. Going back into our geographical section, we also have access to our Tour the USA, which is the exact same as the World Atlas. The only difference is it will zoom you into the US map instead of showing the entire world map as soon as you click that icon. Last two features include the ability to compare countries. If you want to get statistical data and compare two countries, you can select this drop-down feature, and just as it was in the old platform, you'll select the two countries you would like to compare. Oop, did I misspell it? There we go. And then from there, this T-chart will appear where you can launch directly into article content related to those two countries and get statistical and demographical information about those countries as well. So going back into the homepage, I think we've covered everything. Nope, just kidding. The last one is our Geography Explorer, and you still have access to the same game that we saw in the old platform, where students can identify different bodies of water, continents, and countries. So you'll see here within the children's level, again, all of the Explorer tools are the same. They're just in a new layout to be more visually captivating and really captivate interest into the content based off of those images that are provided not only in the article, but also on the homepage of the children's level. I'm going to navigate back into the homepage of Britannica Library, again by clicking on the words Britannica Library at the top left corner. And then now I'm going to launch into the young adult level. One thing I want to point out as we navigate to the young adult level is that you've probably noticed that compared to the old Britannica Library interface, that it now requires users to scroll a little bit longer than they used to engage with content. In the redesign, our editorial team really revised our content, and the change was made to keep with current best practices for modern web design. So keep in mind that with all the home page features, they're there intended as an entry point into a variety of different types of content that Britannica offers. So really being visually captivating instead of overloading students with all of the content in one small area, allowing them to be captivated based off the images and dive in. One thing to point out with these updates is that we don't expect users to look at everything on the homepage. We've really designed it to be, to match the more modern browsing mentality, really expecting users to scroll quickly and freely down the page until they spot something that really captures their interest. Users looking for specific information or a specific topic to research can utilize the search window at the top of this level, or as we saw earlier, directly on that Britannica Library homepage by selecting the magnifying glass next to whatever level they want to explore. But here at the young adult level, you will notice some similarities and differences both to the old interface as well as to the children's level. But at the young adult level, you'll notice at the top of the screen, we have our highlighted feature, which changes every time we reload or visit the site, which will either be some type of fun fact, quote of the day, which will also then prompt us into an article, video, or image that supports that question or fact that we're exploring. As we scroll down, just as we saw at the children's level, you will see that we have access to that article in image and video browse. We did see at the children's level that our biography browse allowed children to explore the biographical content simply by selecting folders based off that person's last name. When we access biographical content at the young adult and reference center level, instead of just having the alphabet provided to them to search through content, they have these windows on the left-hand side of the screen where they can filter based off the era that person was alive, their national or cultural association, what they're known for, as well as if it's relevant, their gender, and be able to filter all of that content using that feature as well. Going back to the young adult feature, or homepage, as we scroll down, you will see here at the young adult level, we do have access to our at-a-glance articles. This is something that is unique to our young adult level. When you open the at-a-glance articles, it really opens our users up into a real at-a-glance look at a specific topic. So you'll see topics such as Women's History Month, or you'll see topics such as Presidents of the United States. And once you open up one of these at-a-glance articles, it will give you a quick introduction and then launch you into a quick at-a-glance list or overview of different articles that directly correlate to that at-a-glance topic that you selected. So as we see here, since we selected Presidents of the United States, when we scroll down, we have the introduction or brief overview about what a president is, how a president is elected, and then as we scroll down, we can see the list of all the presidents and be able to launch directly into their specific articles as well. So I highly encourage you to explore those, but also encourage you to encourage your library users to check those out, to get a quick glimpse of a lot of popular topics that they might be researching, to get a quick overview in one place without having to conduct individual searches as well. As we scroll down, you will also see our Did You Know content, where students and users can explore different video content and also launch into specific articles. And then you'll see here that instead of having our daily buzzword, which was typically in our old interface at the top of the screen, where we saw that slideshow window, it is now listed at the bottom as we continue to scroll down, where students can access the direct definition as well as hear the pronunciation. And then last but not least, as we scroll down, we still have access to some more of our Explorer tools, including that Compare Countries tool and World Atlas tool that we saw earlier, as well as recommended primary sources based off of current events and monthly topics or awareness months that come by. And then last but not least, our new and revised articles. And within this new and revised content, you can see here not only the title of the article that was revised, but also the day that it was revised, and then also be able to dive into all of the new and revised content within Britannica Library. So now that we've gone ahead and checked out the children's level and young adult level, let's go ahead and take a brief moment to now jump into our last level, which is the Reference Center. And here at the Reference Center, very similarly to each page and very similarly to the old interface, we still have our quick engaging fact at the top of the screen. Again, just like our young adult level, whenever you reload the page or refresh the page, this will be changed or updated for you to be able to explore new content. And then again, as we continue to scroll down, we'll see a lot of similar features that we saw at both the young adult and children's level, as well as being able to engage with fun facts such as on this day in history, quotes, as well as scroll all the way down to be able to see those new and revised articles as well and launch in to see some of the updates. But now that we've quickly explored all three of the levels and seen some of the changes and new locations of content, I did want to pause again for any questions before we dive into updates to My Britannica and our research tools and materials. Alrighty, as always, if you're typing a question, continue typing. If it comes in, I'll make sure I answer it as it comes in. But that being said, now that we've gone ahead and checked out all three levels of Britannica Library, one tool that is provided to you is that you have the ability to create what we call a My Britannica account that will allow you to organize and save content and be able to access it easily for any research projects or presentations you may be doing. So when you select the sign in feature whenever you're in Britannica Library, that will open up to a new window where you'll be prompted to log in and sign in either with your Google credentials if you're a Google user, or with the credentials you created when you created an account within Britannica Library. If you have not yet created an account within Britannica Library, you can do so by selecting Create an Account, where you'll be prompted to go ahead and create your credentials, type in your username, password, and email address. One thing to point out whenever you sign in is that if you select the sign in with Google feature, just make sure you consistently always use that feature. What will happen is if you use that feature and then also use the same credentials that you may have for your Google account here separately, that will typically create some type of duplicate account where if you are saving and favoriting information, now you will have to bounce between two separate accounts to find out which one you saved it to. So just note, if you are a Google user and you use the sign in with Google feature, Be consistent in using that just to ensure that you don't have a duplicate account created. But let me go ahead and log into my account. Once I log in, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner that instead of having sign in, my new window appeared for me to see all of the Britannica resources that I have access through. So now here I can see all of the resources that I have access to through my account that I just logged into. And then once I jump into a specific level, it now expands from a sign in to my content. Once I select the My Content feature, that drop-down menu will appear where I can select My Content or Sign Out. So instead of seeing My Content and then seeing resource packs and favorites all in one place, you'll now see My Content as a button in the upper right-hand corner with the drop-down window that appears instead of it expanding horizontally. Once I select My Content, I still have access to all of my favorites. So if you are a My Content or My Britannica user in the past, just know all of your favorites have transitioned into your new account or into this new interface where you can see all of the different articles and images that you've saved chronologically here on the screen. Or you can also organize the content that you favorited into different resource packs. You'll see here that the resource pack interface, instead of all of your resource packs being listed in one place on the left-hand side of the screen, you'll now select this tab at the top of the screen that says Resource Packs and see all of your resource packs provided to you, where you can immediately delete any old resource packs, as well as create any new resource packs, or select a resource pack that you've already created to go ahead and edit any content provided within. If you want to make any additional notes to our resource packs, instead of having your notes window appear directly on the right-hand side of the screen, you now have the icon below that specific content piece that you would like to add a note to. You can go ahead and select that Add Note feature, and then you can start typing your notes directly in the new window. And once you select Save, that new notes window will appear so you can see all of your notes that correspond with any of the content that you favorited and saved. But now that we've quickly seen the resource packs and where you can find your favorites, just a quick reminder of how you can save content to your My Britannica account. If we are in an article or image piece within Britannica Library, I'll simply select the star or favorite icon. Once I do so, it will prompt me to add it to an existing resource pack or create a new resource pack that I can add this item to. If I add a new resource pack, I'll select Create once I type in that title, where that title will now be pushed up into our existing resource pack, and I will select Done. That lets me know that I've saved that content to a specific resource pack within my account, and letting me know that I've already favorited this content. Instead of just having the outline of the star, I have the fully shaded end star provided to me. So now that we've gone ahead and reviewed My Britannica accounts, seen some of the updates to that interface, and reviewed how to favorite content, the last thing that I want to point out within Britannica Library is the research tools and materials space, which is the same as it was before. It's just in a new interface, I should say, where you have access to a research planner where we can go ahead and follow the individual steps of the research process, get instructions throughout the research process on how to plan for my research, or go ahead and can start recording my notes or anything like that, as well as graphic organizers that help me keep track of all of my notes as I go through that process. But as we can see here, as we move through, we're getting instructions as well as being able to make selections directly on this digital worksheet to keep track of all the research that we're doing and following the steps of a typical research project. As you scroll down, you can also find how-tos to do book reports, presentations, papers, and science reports, just as an additional support for users to make sure that they're conducting their research in the most efficient manner, but also meeting any objectives for the projects that they're doing. But now that we've gone ahead and seen everything within Britannica Library, we've been able to explore some of the updates and see some of the changes in the new interface. I wanted to pause for any final questions before we wrap up with some additional support resources that are provided to you to support with Britannica Library implementation. Alrighty, as always, if you're typing a question, keep on typing. I'll make sure I answer it as it comes in. But I quickly wanted to point out a resource page that is provided to you where you can find additional resources, including guided tour resources that will walk you through all of the different steps and features that we explored today, including graphic organizers, as well as blended learning resources and procedure slides, and then tutorial videos. But to access all of those resources I just mentioned, you're going to go to britannicalearn.com/resources, and I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in the chat log for you all to get easy access to. Just know any of the links that I share with you today or any of the resources that I share with you today, I will be sharing with you in a follow-up email, as well as a link to today's session recording. So if it's something that you want to watch again or share with other users, feel free to do so. But once I access that resource page, as I scroll down, I have the option to filter out all of my resources based off the specific Britannica resource I'm exploring. So I can either filter to Britannica Library using this drop-down window and seeing all of the additional resources that are provided. Here you can see that we have different graphic organizers and infographics and posters that you can download directly to your computer. One thing I like to point out about this page, though, is I highly encourage people to not use this drop-down box. It's helpful if you are looking for a specific Britannica Library resource, but if you're looking for a number of different graphic organizers, you will see that some resources are provided under, say, Brtiannica Academic that could also be utilized with, say, Britannica Library, Britannica School, or any of the other resources. So you'll see even when we go to Britannica School, which is also another resource that you guys have access to through Discus. You'll see here we have scavenger hunts, graphic organizers that touch on a number of different topics that, again, you can download and typically type directly on and do all of your edits and note-taking digitally. If you all come across a graphic organizer that for whatever reason doesn't allow you to take direct notes on digitally, feel free to let me know. I do have Adobe Premiere, so I will be able to go in and add text boxes or anything like that for you, so you can ensure that in this digital time, with everyone either being hybrid, virtual, or some people being in person, that students are able to record their notes virtually and continue to move on with their research. But all that being said, now that we've gone ahead and seen all of Britannica Library's updates, as well as some of the supporting resources for the updates within Britannica Library, I first wanted to thank you all for joining me today and taking the time to see some of the updates to the platform. But also, if you guys have any further questions, feel free to drop them in the chat log before we wrap up the session today. Or again, please don't hesitate to record my email address and contact me with any future questions you may have, as well as our Ed support team that can support with any technical issues. One other thing I'd like to share is I am going to change this slide really quickly. So if you haven't done so and you still need my information, I'll give you about 10 more seconds to record it down. But I also wanted to give you the quick access information that I shared earlier. So if you want to know how to access Britannica Library and the rest of your resources, you can take a moment to record that down if you didn't have time to do so earlier. But again, thank you so much for your time. I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon. Let me know if you have any questions. And as promised, if you need access information for all of your Brtiannica resources, you can access all of them at scdiscus.org/discus-resources, and that's where you'll find not only your Brtiannica resources, but all of your library databases. And if you have any specific Discus questions, reach out to Discus office at statelibrary.sc.gov, and they'll be able to answer any of your Discus specific questions or any questions about any of the other databases. Again, thank you all and have a great afternoon.